Hi guys, welcome to the show. Another Show Up, Stand Out online visibility series for entrepreneurs. My guest today, Ian Anderson Gray, is not the first time on this show, and I'm so excited because what we are talking today about, which is live video, I think is an issue for so many amazing people. So we're here to help you gain confidence. Now, let me just, before I pass the baton to Ian, and maybe Ian can introduce some of the things about himself that you don't know. How I found Ian was on his blog, Seriously Social. It was about 3 or maybe 4 years ago. It was one of the first ever places that I've even heard or read about live video. That was before I started building my own visibility on Facebook. And so Ian is a special kind of name for me and a person for me because of that. You know, I kind of feel like he was one of the first ones who inspired me. And he also is a founder of Confident Life Marketing Academy and a podcast, Confident Life Marketing Podcast, which is an absolutely brilliant project. And I think that this is like your baby these days, Ian, isn't it?
It is, yeah. And can I just say, I feel very privileged that you've had me on for the second time. So it's great to be here. And yeah, I'm loving the podcast. And it's kind of funny that I'm doing a podcast about live video. A lot of people ask me about that, but it starts off as a live video and then I repurpose that into a podcast. And the great thing about that is that they're different audiences and I can have a lot of fun with the podcast bit. So I have lots of fun and play around with silly things like a little theme tune at the beginning.
Yes, I know. I am geeking out on loads of things, including, creating my own intros and everything. But that's a little different conversation, guys. Now, yes, we're two geeks and we're showing up on live video. Why live video? Like, how did you decide that it has to be a live video for you and not recorded video?
Well, it was quite a reluctant decision. I fell into it. So I've always been a geek and interested in technology, and I was blogging about social media. And then Facebook Live came about in 2016, and I thought, I've got to have that. But I couldn't because living in the UK, being an Android phone user at the time, I just didn't have access to it. And then I played around. I found this software called OBS Studio, really quite difficult to use. And I have one of these things, it's a flaw in my personality, but also a strength in that when I find something that's difficult to use, that outrages me. And I think it should be easy. So I wrote a blog post to make it really, really easy for people. And then I thought, I'm going to have to actually go live now, aren't I? And I found it really scary. I just found, pressing that go live button and not being able to see the audience really scary. But I kept doing it. And my background, I trained as a professional singer. It's a completely different part of my story. I found a lot of those experiences were really, really helpful in helping me getting over that fear. And so I've kept on doing it and doing it and doing it. And now one of my big passions is to help people, entrepreneurs particularly, to go live, to get over that fear and to gain confidence in front of the camera. Because I've felt the fear. And I've been able to get through it or use that fear or turn it into a different emotion, which you can probably talk about today.
Absolutely. And in fact, I'm glad that you mentioned that you have a background in doing something in front of the public, because that's sort of my background as well. From the age of 3, I was always, leading performances, even in the kindergarten, and singing and talking. And, I was the one on stage all the time. It was never a big deal. And yet with live video, it kind of doesn't really matter sometimes because it's a different scenario. It's a different setting. You can turn to love the setting. I actually do love live video because this camera is my best friend. I share all these deep secrets. I probably don't even speak freely like this with my husband because, fear of judgment, but I would say whatever I want to the camera, so there is other ways, and we can, this is one of the things that was important for me.
It's great that you see that you can be, we use the word authentic a lot, but I think it's an important thing because at the end of the day, it's really important that your potential clients see you because you're the person they're going to work with. And if you can be real, that human connection is so powerful. And that is why live video is so powerful because it's unedited. And also we were talking about this before we started recording, about the fact that we're both probably perfectionists and deep thinkers. And one of the great thing about live video is that it's like the complete antidote to perfectionism, because you press that go live button and you just have to go with it. You're going to make mistakes and it doesn't matter. So it's a great way of getting it done. And that's one of the big reasons I find live video really helpful. Last time we talked about the idea of it actually almost sometimes for some people being a bit more scary going live just to a camera as opposed to speaking on stage. And I think we're all different, but I think it's a little bit like I had this kind of almost like a dream the other day thinking about this, about going live. And it reminded me of the film Gladiator, or if you're into Star Wars, it's the Attack of the Clones. And it's when they're in the auditorium and they're kind of like gladiators, and they don't know what's behind the gate. There could be anything, could be monsters. It could be like, and that's what it feels like when you go live. You can't see your audience. But the great thing about live is that actually what comes through that door is not usually a big monster. It's your audience that just want to come out and give you a hug and actually just have a chat with you. So yeah, it's converting the gladiator stadium into actually just having a chat with your friends.
I love that you brought that up, because this is the biggest problem. I run an 11-day live video challenge, and before it was just all inside a group, and what I found is that people after the 11 days, they get so comfortable, but they know it's within this group of people who approve them, who go through the same process, and they make lifelong relationships.
Yeah.
But then the scary thing is to go and do it on your personal profile. And yes, it feels vulnerable because on the personal profile, anybody can see you. There is a lot of layers, I believe, to that. For example, I'm very intuitive, and it's almost like, and an empath, and I feel the energy. So if somebody, I don't know, in Malaysia, all of a sudden found a blonde girl talking on video and they feel compelled to comment, that one comment will affect me more than any other comments of people that I know, that I've seen their names or anything like that. So, and it's not even that there's anything bad said or insulting said, but I just find that there's loads of different things. However, I agree with you that especially our personal profiles, they're so friendly. They actually are full of like people who love us. They want us to succeed. They admire us. They admire us for the courage of going live. And it's if you look back and you say, well, how much of the good versus how much of the bad, there'll be 99% of amazing versus 1% of like could live without this.
Yeah, totally. You mentioned being empathetic. Empathy is such a strong, powerful, useful emotion to have, or strength to have when it comes to live video, because if you can empathize with your audience, that can really come across that you can really connect with your audience. But it also has the flip side. It can also be a weakness, because when you get somebody coming in and commenting in a negative way, you really feel that it can really hit you. So there is no kind of easy answer to this. I mean, what I'm going to say here is like it's pretty obvious, but more difficult to actually think about. And the fact that is that your perfect clients are going to be people who love you, whereas the people that you don't want to work with are going to be the people that probably don't like you so much. So I think, I don't know, it's probably Chris Ducker or somebody like that who's mentioned this before about, you want to attract your perfect clients and repel the people that you don't want to work with. And so if you do get people that come in and aren't that nice to you, well, good luck to them. They're not your perfect client. So I think it takes time, and you've got to have a really clear vision of what it is that you're doing. And you need to be really, really reminding yourself about that and who it is that you want to work with before you press live every single time, so that when you do get somebody coming in like that, it doesn't affect you as much as it would otherwise do. And also just keep on doing it every single week. And I've found that when I have had some criticisms, and to be honest, they've been so rare, but when I have had them, it's not affected me quite as much. And I've been really impressed with myself that that's been the case, because it's always affected me really badly in the past. So I think the more times you do it, the easier it gets. And don't focus on the negative. I think most people watching and listening will identify with this. You know, we have so many people encouraging us from time to time, and then when we get the one criticism, which ones do we focus on? Do we focus on the encouragements or the criticisms? Of course, we focus on the criticisms. And so one thing that I found really useful, it sounds a bit cheesy, but it really works, and that is to keep a Google Doc, or it could be a file somewhere, where you write down encouragements. And because I forget them, I always forget those. So when people give me lovely comments on my live videos, I'll put them in my file and I will read them. I try and read them daily, but it doesn't always happen. And then when I do get a criticism, I can then go back to my happy words file, which is what it's called. And I felt, oh, okay, that's not true.
I love that. I have a brag folder. In fact, the word brag I took from, I think it was Katya Varbanova, who said she has a brag book. And I think it's important. So I have a folder on my phone. That's like anytime. I have a folder on my computer. You can also, and it's good tip actually to occasionally put screenshots on your personal profile. Say, for example, it's good for your, establishing the authority. Say, look what they said.
Yeah.
Put it in an album. So even if if you don't have anything, go on Facebook, go into that album and enjoy yourself, because it is important. And as you said, it's just our brains are, I think, as a primer instinct, focusing on danger, focusing on negative. It's natural to us. So we also have to be kind of kind to ourselves, understand that, our brain is working in that kind of animal state before we even start thinking. So yes, we can get that reaction, but don't hold on to it, because and there's so many things, including imposter syndrome, including so many things that affect us, and the fears. People don't go live because they're afraid. And there's no proof. Nobody ever said anything to them, but they wouldn't go live because they're afraid that it can happen. And
it's a natural thing. So I was pretty sure that it was this kind of animal instinct thing, the prehistoric thing. And I had a psychologist come on my show to talk about this. And it is true, the fact that actually when we do something scary, like go live, it's something completely unknown, and we can't see the audience. So the part of the brain that is the prehistoric part of our brain basically is there. It's not very intelligent, this part of the brain. Its prime purpose is to stop us dying. And when you press the go live button, it thinks there's a tiger coming to attack you, you're gonna die. And so it tries to stop you from doing it. But then what you need to do, you need to kind of have a bit of a conversation with yourself. So the other part of your brain needs to say, look, it's okay. And I'm not going to die. I've got this under control. This is just a live video. I know what I'm talking about. I planned it all. The tech's going to work. So yeah, in fact, the psychologist was saying, give it a name. Give this inner voice a name. So his inner voice is Bob. I haven't quite come up with a name for my inner voice. But anyway, you give it a name, you say, all right, Bob, look, it's all right. Got it under control. Let's just do it. And the inner voice will never go away, and you don't want it to go away, because actually it's actually really useful if you are in a cave and a tiger is actually going to attack you. That is good. But with a live video, you've got to say to it, look, it's all right. You're not going to die. This is actually something completely different, and treat it like that. And I think that's a really helpful way to get over those fears. And then a friend of mine is another musician, and he was talking about this whole idea of fear. Now, some people say that you should get rid of the fear, and some people say you should embrace it. Well, I think it's a case of changing fear to a different emotion. That fear and excitement are very, very similar emotions. So instead of trying to kind of like necessarily do all your mindfulness before you go live, I'm not against mindfulness at all. In fact, breathing exercises are really important. Actually, it's good to turn that fear into excitement, and to have a little bit, use that adrenaline that's pumping through your veins to give your best performance. Maybe performance is the wrong word, because that means makes it sound like you're not being authentic. But it's a case of being, I call this heightened authenticity. So you're being yourself, but you're just being a bit more energy. You're using that adrenaline to keep you going through that live video.
I'm going to encourage the use of word performance. Simply why? Because when I go live, or even interviews like this, I get a 100% green light to be me.
Mm.
I'm an introvert and I'm not very sociable. And so I'm a quiet one, I don't really go and, I'm not the very outgoing in say in a company or a public, I will be a quiet and have in-depth conversations.
Yeah.
But here I get to be me 100%. I can be as animated, as hyper, as whatever I want to do. If I want to use Snapchat filters, I will. And nobody can stop me. I am in my room, there is my camera, and the camera is so approving of everything. And I love it. I always say this is Juliette's show. So that gives me confidence against, say, negative comments. I never get negative comments, but I sometimes get flirty comments. Those are the ones I don't like. I'm like, what are you doing here? Like, get away. And then I enjoy blocking them straight after the live stream. It's like one of the routines.
I don't understand why people do that. I mean, I have to say, I've not had any flirty comments with me, but I think you'd be a bit worried if I did. But I think the thing is, if you think about it, when was the last time you went onto somebody else's live video and were really judgmental and posted negative comments? I mean,
I never did.
Yeah.
I actually think people who don't like us. Okay, so let's just have a disclaimer. Some people who are visible intentionally create a very polarizing personalities. I have seen trolling. I have seen abuse on those influencers who have a polarizing personality. And these people, the influencers themselves, they wouldn't hold back as well. They will be abusive to their audience members back, right? I don't like confrontation. So I'm not, I try to avoid confrontation. I might have strong opinions. I'm not a pushover, but I don't want to argue with anyone. I'll just block them because my energy is more important to me than the sake of the argument. So, most of people are okay. They're not polarizing by nature. And most people don't get the trolls. And then, so that means that, okay, I'm watching In's video and it's just, I watched for 10 seconds and just didn't grab me. I have life. I'm going to move on. I'm not going to stay there commenting. And, most people really think like that because there's too much information. And those people who may stay and may say something odd, there's also people with some conditions and, they're deeply disturbed. And you have to also understand that they have access to the social network and it's okay as well. Just, exercise kindness, protect your energy. If you have to block them afterwards or you have to, fine, but don't take it on board because their problems is not your problems.
Well, I've had few nutters on my live shows. I've had quite a few nutters responding to my emails. I don't know what it says about my email list, but anyway. And I've had some people that have just been block capitals, like just really offensive words. And then I've responded to them. I probably wouldn't respond to them now. I'd probably just block them. But I used to respond to some of these people just to see what was going on. And I've responded in a very polite way saying, is everything okay? And then they responded saying, oh, I didn't realize anyone was going to read that email. It was like that. Or sometimes they'd have a really bad day at work. Sometimes they were just nutters and it didn't matter what, So the thing is, you don't know what's going on in people's lives. There are people around the world that are going through horrific circumstances. And there are some people out there that are complete nutters. And of course, there are some people, as you say, who've got conditions, whatever it is. And so I think if somebody's responding to you in an offensive way, there is the block button. So use that. And, but otherwise, just be polite and sensitive.
But we can't not do things just out of fear that somebody, one person or two people can be mean to us. Then we would never go out into the streets. We would never, like children are not bothered that they're going to fall when they're trying to walk.
Yes.
It's natural for us to persevere. And then as adults, I think what happens is that we forget that first of all, to get somewhere, we will fall a couple of times, we'll have to learn to walk. I think when we're adults, our brain just wants everything straight away. We want to turn on the camera and be absolutely perfect and speak for like 2 hours without forgetting what we wanted, without any bullet points. And to be honest with you, that doesn't happen. Now I can do that, but that will make no sense.
Well, it's not what people don't want that anyway. So I think it actually happens even I think even as a child. So like my 11-year-old, she's already starting to so she's learning, she's doing really well on the piano. And sometimes she'll stop and say, "Oh, I can't do it. That's awful." And she'll like cry. And I reminded her, well, not that she can remember this, but when you were a toddler and you were trying to learn to walk, you fell over loads of times and you didn't cry and go, "Oh, I can't do it." But now you are. So don't try and be a perfectionist. And people don't want perfect. People actually want real. People are listening and watching videos, much longer videos now, where people are just being real, having real conversations like we're doing now. And this is, we're not editing the, what we're not you're not taking bits out of what I'm saying. This is the real me. And yes, I'm not speaking perfectly. I've probably said and a lot, and I've probably occasionally said things that are not always correct, but I'm doing my best, and this is the real me. And that's what people like. That's what people want to know. They're fed up with the slick marketing videos. I found this on Instagram and Facebook, but particularly Instagram, the stories. So I've gone through stories, and you see your friends and on there, and that's great. And then suddenly there'll be this other video that pops into your feed, and I've noticed that I've just skipped through it. And then I thought, well, why did I skip that? I go back. It's a slick marketing video. I was just like pre-programmed. I wasn't interested in that. I'm interested in real people, and I think most people are.
That's the essence of social media, isn't it? We actually are looking for soulmates, soul connection. And I'm exactly like you. Every time I see a polished video, I don't bother watching it. I think it's important for us to analyze who we personally follow and how they show up, because you will find that a lot of people who are even very, for example, I follow John Assaraf. John Assaraf does lives every Tuesday at 5:00 UK. And he has a studio, but it's not super professionally produced. It's just a wall behind a man who's just going live and talks to people and delivers 30 minutes of training, or sometimes just, chatting to people. And it's a real person. There is nothing there. He might forget what he has to say. John Assaraf being someone, to do with neuroscience, it wouldn't phase him out, because that's normal for our brains, and he'll explain that while remembering what he had to say. And this is what I really like, because that what happens to me. A friend of mine named this fraction thinking, where you try to make a point, then you go off, and then you forget what you were talking before. But live video is absolutely brilliant, because it does give you well, as I said already, green light on this show, but it really, that's what it is. Green light to be you. I've already made grammar mistakes, probably about like 10 of them on this show. I know, because I noticed. But now you can look back. But that's okay, because I'm proud that I can enrich English language with my bad grammar.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. I mean, if you say something incorrect and then people then jump on what you've said and say, "Oh, you used the wrong tense there. You added an S, or you I don't know, whatever it is, I can't think." But some people have got too much time on their hands if that's the case. And so you just need to be real and embrace who you are, and that's what people like.
It's true. And, it also, I think it has to do with, when we talk about attracting ideal clients, really we're talking about attracting people who are perfect people for us. They accept us the way we are. They completely turn a blind eye on little mistakes that shouldn't really matter. In my world, I have no attention to detail. So I didn't know that before, but now I do. And people who are really getting hooked up on, say, a typo or me, making a mistake, they're not my ideal people.
Yeah.
And I don't want to work with them.
Exactly. And do you know what? Once you realize this, and I think this is a process, and I'm going to be totally honest, I'm still on this process. Once you realize that, it's so liberating. It's so liberating, because you can be you. And the great thing is you are going to get the clients who want to work with the real you, because I think from time to time, most of us try and put on an act. We try and put a facade on. We try and be somebody else. And we learn that from a young age. But as you get older, hopefully you start to realize that actually that's quite exhausting to try and be somebody else. And it's not, you end up being a fake version of somebody else. Just be yourself. It's so liberating, and that's what people want. So I'm a big believer in that, but it does take time, and I find that I don't do this so much. And actually, just talking to you about this has reminded me, this is actually a really encouraging thing. So 2 years ago, I would look at other people doing live video and thinking, oh, well, I can't do that. You know, they're just like, they're so full of energy. I can't do that. I stutter over my words. You know, I can't. And I'd compare myself to other people. And I think what made me realize once is when there was somebody who I really, really looked up to. They were an amazing marketer. And at an event, they asked a question to the person, said, well, what do you do about comparison syndrome? You know, if you compare yourself to other people, you know, what do you do about it? And I thought, what? You don't compare yourself with other people. You're amazing. You know what? And then I started to think, yeah, it's not true, is it? We're all like that. We probably all compare ourselves to other people. We're not happy with ourselves. And once you then remember that actually you need to embrace who you are, and people will come to you, your perfect audience. It's so liberating.
I want to actually add another layer to this, what you just said, because just recently, a private client of mine said, Juliette, do you think you found who you are? And I have a completely different outlook on this. And actually, recently it was validated by me discovering a concept called human design. You can Google that. It's absolutely brilliant. It's literally a permission for you to be you. So one of the things about my personal personality and the way I am designed is that I don't have a fixed identity, and I'm enjoying the fact that I can be whoever I want in the moment. So if I today want to be this spunky, funky woman and, you know, an interview host, and that's who I am right now. You know, later on I'll be ironing my laundry. That I'm going to be a laundry girl then. I'm going to be doing. So I love, and I'm very different. My husband always says, when you're with that person, you change. And that's because that's the identity I assume. And being absolutely fine with it. Not everybody in the world has, or even meant to have, a distinct identity. And sometimes being fluid and flexible for us is what we are meant to be. And so I find if you start getting hooked up on, but I don't know who I am, just allow yourself to be whoever you want to be in the moment. Even you don't have to be forever set in these ways.
I think that's really, really interesting point. I think that our personalities, we're multi-layered. So actually, you mentioned you're an introvert. I'm an introvert, but I can be extroverted sometimes. I can just like become that. And I don't think it's, for me, I don't think I change. I just bring another layer out. And so I'm still me, but it's just a different aspects of me. And you're right, when I speak to different people, you know, we could probably geek out about technology and live video and marketing and all that kind of stuff. And I'm not going to go and speak to my wife or my non-marketing friends like that, because I would bore them to death. And so I'd tone that bit down. And so there's different aspects of me. And so, yeah, just allow yourself to give yourself permission to be who you want to be at that particular time, to bring the layer out that you need to have for that. So I mentioned the whole idea of heightened authenticity. You're still being you, but you're just putting a little bit more energy into it, because I think the problem with the camera is it's a bit of an energy sucker. So I think you need to ramp up the energy a little bit. And so if you describe yourself as a very shy person, or maybe you're an introverted person, which are different things, by the way, then I think you just, it doesn't mean that you can't go in front of the camera. You just need to ramp up the energy a little bit for that show.
It's very good that you mentioned the energy, because again, some people, not everybody generates their own energy. Some people feed off other energies, and those who are, and introverts often are like that. That's why we need time to recharge, which, as you said, is different from being shy, which is a fear of rejection and judgment. So for me as well, you know, I get hyper when I go and do my lives. I get hyper when I decide to slap a Snapchat filter on, and I'm like, oh, my brain just activates straight away. But I do need to really recharge after. So 2 or 3 lives, if I have 2 interviews and I do a live, I will be a little bit cooked at the end and I need to recharge, it's just, I think, what we need to do to focus on here and to do with live video is to understand, first of all, how you draw your energy, how you spend your energy, and how you need to recharge if you are an introvert. So this way you will not get upset that this is draining you, and you won't actually focus on it in a negative way. But you can be energized, and you can deliver, and you can be who you want people who you want to work with to see you as. This is absolutely authentic. It's still you.
I love that.
It's not a pretense.
Yeah. That being much more self-aware of your energy levels, your mood as well is that's kind of what you're saying. And whether you are an introvert or an extrovert. So as an introvert, you may find that your energy needs to be ramped up. You also, well, afterwards you feel like maybe you need to go to bed. That's sometimes how I feel like that. But I think whether you're an introvert or an extrovert, you'll have the high after the live video, and then you'll probably then have the low. So you've got to just be aware that if a live video has gone really, really well, you're probably going to be on a high. You're probably not going to be able to. So I've done live videos at night because trying to kind of fit time zones in and stuff like that around the world, and I've not been able to go to sleep. But because I'm just like buzzing. I'm really, really buzzing. But then if I've done it earlier on the day, I will be buzzing, and then my mood will go down, and then I'll start to be a bit, not depressed, but almost a little bit down, because it's a normal thing. We have that real buzz, and then we've got I suppose it's the hormones then kind of going off, and so you're then left with a bit of a trough after the peak.
It's great that you mentioned that, because again, if you're resisting to do live video, or maybe you've experienced this, because I can sign under each word that Injo said about how it can make you feel deflated, it can make you feel completely like I veg, but that's a good time for you to do something like you can read maybe a book or watch some videos of cats and dogs. That kind of re-energizes me. I use that as a therapy for getting out of the low. So if I feel like I expended all my energy, I know what energizes me. Laughter does. So I will intentionally go and I'll find something funny to look at. Usually it's the animals. And so when you try and manage your energy, then nothing becomes, it's not an obstacle to do a live video. You know how to bring yourself, or not bring yourself back, but actually how to use that time when you are recharging. Maybe you do need a power nap, maybe you do need to read a book, and maybe you never find time to read, just go and read a couple of pages while you're getting back. But when you allow yourself, I think it's all about actually permission you give yourself. If you allow yourself to cool down consciously, and whatever you do during that time, you will get back so much faster than if you keep thinking that, oh my God, I feel it's like it's drained me, this is horrible. And you're just winding yourself up, I think.
Yeah, just be who you are. Don't start beating yourself up by the fact that you feel really tired afterwards. I mean, again, this is comparison syndrome. You see other people out there and they're so full of energy on the live video, and you just kind of assume that they're like that all the time. And I know that's not the case. I've got some friends who are just so full of energy, and then you meet them in real life, and I'm expecting them to come up to me and say, "Hey, Ian, how are you doing?" And they're just, "Hi, Ian, how are you doing?" Yeah. And they're just normal. It's so just don't compare yourself.
This is funny what you just said, because I my next step will be to visit all the big events. I haven't, because of some hassle of travel for me right now, and I was sort of taking over the world from this office. But I'm moving shortly to Estonia. When I'm in Estonia, the airport is like 15 minutes in the city center in there, so I want to travel. But what you just said, me as an introvert, this is my nightmare scenario, that I'm coming to the event, like, I don't know, funnel hackers or something, and everybody is super hyper, and I do not like being around super hyper people unless I'm super hyper myself. And so I am terrified telling myself these stories, which I know all just, things that I'm telling myself. Right. But it's so true. We expect people. I am the same. I'm very hyper, very energized on my videos. I'm not like that at all. I'm very quiet. So, you maybe I sometimes afraid if you meet me in real life, maybe you'll think I'm boring. But I just did too many live videos, so I'm sort of deflated. I just need to chill a little bit. And I call myself a party pooper, because I will do the 3-4 live videos or in my groups and personal profile and interview, and then I'll go to my husband in the evening and he says, let's have a party, and I'm saying, yeah, okay, what do you want to do? And I completely, I can't participate. I'm not a party organizer or a heart of the party to keep it going. And so this is it, and this is the truth. Guys. Yeah. So don't beat yourself up, and you don't also need to be always like this, but whatever, I find that still energize yourself, because when you have energizing lives, you feel good. It's about feeling good.
So you mentioned like watching videos of animals making you laugh. So I think laughing before you do a live video is great. And I'm a big believer in doing some warming up. So as a singer, I always found that warming up my voice before I performed was really, really good. And I think it's really important to do that before you go live. So actually practicing your breathing, doing some stretching exercises, the kind of exercises that you would do before going to the gym. And even singing a silly song, whatever it is, just start off just really making sure that your facial muscles, you're brightening lifting your eyes and your eyebrows and really going for it before you press that go live button. There's nothing better than starting with maybe just smiling and laughing as you start. That's a really good way. Do some exercises. There's a great app for iPhone and Android phones called 1 Minute Voice Warm Up. It's not free, but it's about, I don't know, $2 or $3 or something. But it's really good just to warm up your voice, whether you're doing public speaking or any of that kind of thing, live video. It's great.
That's actually great. What is the name of the app again?
It's called 1 Minute Voice Warm Up.
Easy, and says what it says. It does what it say on the tin. That's what it is. And I completely messed it up. But this is it. We're not cutting anything out of this. Partially because I like my time and I don't want to edit on this video or podcast and spend time on this just because I'm a perfectionist. Before I let you go, because we've been, we went a little bit even over, and I really enjoyed this conversation, and I can speak to you for the whole day. We were talking about perfectionism. Actually, I completely forgot now what I wanted to ask you, and this is exactly what I talk about.
Thinking. That happens to me all the time. I start something and then I'll forget. But hopefully, while I'm talking, you'll remember what it was. We were talking before about the different barriers. There's comparison syndrome, perfection syndrome. I don't know whether it was this. And then there's I don't like the way we look, the way I look, or the way I sound. Or
I have it.
Yeah, yes. What is it?
Yes. It was about people thinking that when they go on live and they don't have experience, they expect to be exactly like, say, me and you, and we've been at it for years, and so in a way, done is better than perfect. I personally, I can't do pre-recorded. I am a done is better than perfect person. I like, looking well, and I don't want to produce completely horrible quality, because I am a visual person and it's important to me. But I'm not going to spend all my life doing this. I will eventually say, well, that'll do. I don't care, if you pick on it.
Yeah.
But then people expect to be like this from the word go.
Oh yeah, it's a common problem. And I've done this myself, and then I've slapped myself around the head thinking, what on earth are you doing here? You're ridiculous. You're comparing your first ever live video with that person's 100th live video. Of course you're not going to be as good as that. And there's a great graph that you can draw, and basically it starts from 0 and it's wiggly and it goes up. Like all graphs should be wiggly, I think. And you start from 0 because this is your first video. And also one of the I'm not very good at graphs and axes. Is it the X or the Y? I forget.
I wouldn't have a slightest idea, but I know what you're talking about. The one that looks up.
I should know that. All that education gone to waste. Anyway, the one that goes up, that one is your confidence level. So you're going to start at 0 again. And also that also stands for the quality of your video. It's probably not going to be 0, but it's not going to be very high. And as you do more and more, your confidence is going to go up, and the quality is going to go up. It's going to wiggle, so occasionally you'll have the odd blip, but it'll get better and better and better. So don't compare yourself to other people's videos out there, because you've just got to start. And the great thing is, once you've started, you can only get better. You've got to plan. You've got to make sure the tech is working. Learn when mistakes happen. Remember to learn from those mistakes and integrate that into your checklist. So I always have a live video checklist, which most of the time I will follow, unless I'm being naughty. And I always try and follow that, because sometimes when you're feeling complacent, that's exactly the time when things go wrong. And it's the one time that your internet isn't very good, is when you haven't checked your internet speed before you've gone live. So yeah, don't get complacent. Always check that. And remember that you're always going to get better. Don't start perfect.
I love that. I love that. I never check the internet speed before I go live. I do check that I have lipstick on. That's on my list. But it's so true. I sometimes look at the first videos that I made, and some of them are terrifying to look, very cringy. I still have them up. I'm not taking them down, because it's important that maybe somebody comes across and sees them. And guys, you can go to my personal profile on Facebook and go into video tab and go down, and you will see it's all work in progress. And I think it's always going to get better and better and better. And maybe someday maybe your videos will look like a professional, like Marie Forleo TV. Maybe, but maybe, or maybe not.
Maybe it doesn't matter. So just another me trying to be honest here is that I stopped going live for a whole month because I was worried about my background not being quite as good. And I could still feel like this. I mean, looking at your background, I'm thinking, oh, that looks so lovely. And look at my background, it's really boring. And one of the things about, I am going to work at this, because I know that this is one of my weaknesses. I'm not so much of a visual person, so I need help with my background. But I stopped going live for a whole month because I was worried about my background. And at the end of the day, my audience were waiting for me to go live. They weren't interested in my background. I mean, I think it would be nice if I had a better one, but they didn't care. They just wanted to hear from me. So don't let silly things like that become your excuse. For example, you might not have the best camera in the world. It doesn't matter. Just go live. If you don't have a fancy microphone like the one I've got here, again, it doesn't matter. I didn't start off with this. I started off with something very basic. So just, don't make those excuses. Obviously plan what you're going to say, but then just go live. And yes, mistakes will happen, but just go with it.
It's so true. And it's so true. What you said about visual, the background can hold people back.
Yeah.
If you say, I don't know who to target, I don't know who my ideal client is, so I'm not going to do the video. It doesn't matter, because they will appear as you talk about, how you deal with procrastination. That's the video I'm going to do today. How whether you think that talent is something that you have to succeed or something like that. There's so many prompts you can find. There's so many ways that you can show up, but that's how you start. It's better done than not done. It's better done than perfect. And trust me, before I started doing, before I decided that I'm going to start doing, lives and build my visibility, I painted my room here in very nice, warm Mediterranean color, yellow, kind of dark yellow. It's horrible on video. It's really, really bad. And for the first year, it was really bad. So I got help, even though I am visual, but I actually got help with my background. I got somebody coming in with a fresh eye and saying to me, well, Juliette, you know what? Paint it white. And then, you know what? These books should be there, and that should be there, and that should be there. Because I think it's important, but don't wait for everything to be perfect before you start. By the time you build the audience building is not that fast a process. By the time you build your audience, loads of things will tweak themselves into place.
That's great advice. Yeah, don't wait for your audience. You've got to build that. That takes time, and yes, you'll be able to upgrade your camera and your microphone at some point, and you'll be able to get your background sorted. But yeah, just start doing the stuff and start building the audience and tweaking things over time.
Exactly. Ian, thank you so much for being an amazing guest today. And I really want you guys to check out Ian's podcast. Now, I have a link in the description of this video, or if you're listening this on a podcast, there is definitely a link in the show notes for the podcast. Any last words that you want to leave us today with, Ian?
Not really. I just really want to I hope we've encouraged listeners and viewers to just stop procrastinating, to know that you're not the only one. I've gone through these problems. You've gone through these problems before, but we've done it. We've pressed that go live button, and we've done it to create some content. It's not been perfect, but we've built an audience, and you can do it too. You who are listening and watching. So I'd love you to get in touch with me or Juliette and just tell us that you've done it. Just get started.
Exactly. Thank you so much, Ian. Again, guys, I will see you on another episode of Show Up, Stand Out. And yes, don't hold yourself back just because you think that other people are doing it better. You have to start somewhere, and you have to start now. See you all later, and goodbye.